one and all. Welcome to the Bituation Room podcast live show thing situation. So happy to have you here. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for tuning in live. Thank you for all of the things. We have such a great show today, despite, again, being in the sunken place as a nation, maybe a little less sunken after this weekend. Miles Gray of the Daily Zeitgeist is joining me very shortly, as well as Representative Summerlee, who has been out front on many issues, including Epstein files, including holding Israel accountable for killing Palestinian Americans. Who would have thought we could do something like that? She is obviously a squad member from Pennsylvania. She is also in the crosshairs of AIPAC because who isn't? Oh, yes, all the people receiving money from them. So we're going to get into it with her. I cannot wait. Look and talk about sort of the future of this fight that we all find ourselves in. I got to say, the most obnoxious thing about the No Kings protest, which was great, but like anyone mentioning going back to brunch or like we could have been at brunch, but now I'm just like, no more brunch. Brunch has been canceled for years. If the price of eggs alone have canceled brunch. But anyway, we are also going to be talking about Zohran Mamdani 2 weeks away from this election and just the, more debates. There's another one tomorrow. We're going to look at the debate that happened last week and look at how the rich are reacting to all of this, all of the Democratic Socialists possibly becoming mayor. So if you're here, you know what to do. You just palm the keyboard. You do all the things. You give this podcast 5 stars. Write me a cute little Hakeem Jeffries haiku. That's what I ask for. Please support this show by becoming a patron. Patreon.com/bituationroom. This is truly, other than a couple of ad sponsors, it is a truly people-powered podcast. We have a small but amazing team that helps me every single week. In addition to doing things like production and booking, it's also excellent research and amazing editing from Brent Godin, who helped me with our slapaganda piece, looking at the Trump administration's not just AI, but his entire approach to the internet, his brain-rotted presidency, what it says about them and us and all the little chuds that are being recruited into ICE. And by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bituationroom, you support those deep dives. You support me having a little bit of breathing room to take a break from the news, which I understand. It's like, why, this is the time to ramp everything up. But you know what? It's bad for my heart and it's bad for my soul. I prefer longer, deeper, funny, attempted funny. So thank you so much for becoming patrons. $10 a month gets you that shout out during the fart song and my undying love. You also get discounts on merch, 20% off our merch, bituationroom.com for your Frantifa shirts, your Bituation Room shirts, your tote bags, your stickers. 60% off the American Prospect magazine that I write for every single month. Sometimes discounts on live shows. I will be doing another live show November 1st here in Pasadena, California. New World Disorder is my show. Eddie Pepitone, Mav Viola, Eliza Skinner, who's been a guest on this show, will be my guest, as well as Vanessa Gonzalez. I just hope that the Dodgers do this in 6 games because I don't want to be competing with Game 7, right? No one wants to compete with Game 7. The point is, thank you. Come see me live. Get tickets, and I hope everyone is planning a fun little Halloween. Do we do that anymore? Is that happening? With that, let's get into it, guys. He is the co-host of the Daily Zeitgeist, 420 Day Fiance, I believe, still, and a guest on so many other awesome shows. You know him, you love him. Please welcome Miles Gray.
Hello.
Whoa.
Thank you. I was not ready for that. Yeah, the Dodgers will probably do it in 5 games. I'll give the Blue Jays 1 game. But
I have no idea. How have they been playing? Have they been hitting the ball?
They're doing okay, but I think their pitching might not be able to match up with the freaks we've got in Dodger Stadium. So yeah,
with
I think
freaks of Shohei Ohtani. Like,
yeah.
Someone had to, I was just like tuned in. Someone, meaning my brother, was like, so you realize how crazy this is, right? I'm like, oh yeah, that is crazy.
mother in tears. My Japanese mother in tears. And I was like, I get it, Mom. Yeah, none of us thought it was possible, but he did.
That's amazing. Looks over at you. What have you done?
I know. She's like, take off that hat. She's like, you're not hitting a home run. I'm like, I could have, but I chose comedy. So what are you gonna do?
Miles, we love your show, The Daily Zeitgeist.
Love your show. Love the show.
A lot of people find this show through that show, including actually our editor Brent Godin, who's a Zeitgang member. I don't know what you have
Brent.
to
okay.
do. Yeah, shout out to Brent. But Miles, it's been a minute since you've been back on. Like,
I don't know what I did to not be on for so long. You know, we hang out a lot, and our families hang out so much. I'm like, and I was meaning to bring up next time. I was gonna be like, how come you haven't had me on Bitchuation? But yes, no, it is great to be back.
It's been since definitely not since the election, and it's been a while, but there's a lot to cover, a lot to get into. There's some good moments, some sad moments. But what are you bitching about today, Tuesday, October 21st?
What am I bitching about today? Honestly, I was talking about this on my show, The Daily Zeitgeist, that you so generously shouted out at the beginning. Just the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, said something that I think was pretty remarkable during the No Kings rally, which was that he was calling for a general strike in the United States, which has never happened. Never happened. And the thing that really is just I want to bitch about is just the lack of mainstream coverage of that. The fact that you had a mayor of a city that was under siege by the federal government saying, we need to fight back with the tools we have as people. And one of those might be withholding our labor. We just numerically, we have some leverage here, but what are we going to do with that? Because we're having a lot of unprecedented things happen to us. So when is it time for us to do something unprecedented? And and I think that was really, I was like, okay, Brandon Johnson, say that. You go around, it's like HuffPo and like Daily Kos or something, like the only people who have general strike in their headline talking about it.
Well, that's what's crazy about, like, number one, thoughts on the general strike. I think that would be amazing. I also think it has to come from the unions, right? There is that
100%, yeah. That's why they're eyeing 2028. They're like, we might have something when we have to renegotiate a lot of contracts simultaneously, and we might be able to do this. Yeah, for sure.
No, and that would be so powerful. So, like, I definitely, like, as much as I support all the Instagram accounts that are like general strike tomorrow, like, I also want to be realistic and temperate. That's number one. So that's just, not dumping on any of those initiatives, but it's going to take a lot of work. But number two, I love Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson comes himself from the teachers union in Chicago as an organizer.
Yep.
He comes from
what they did.
Huh?
And I said, we saw what they did. The teacher strike was significant. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Chicago has a storied history with labor action for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The first place I went when I visited Chicago was the Haymarket, statue, right? The honoring the Haymarket riots, rebellion, whatever we want to call it. But like, Brandon Johnson is one of the only, if the only mayor or elected official that has really confronted the Gestapo in the way that I think it needs to be confronted. He hasn't said things like, everyone just keep it peaceful. Don't give them a reason, or I would call in the police, the National Guard. Nancy Pelosi, made a couple headlines because she was, yelling at a reporter who was like some, right winger, but about like, the National Guard wasn't asked to be sent to San Francisco. And I am effectively like, I would accept if they did want to come. Like, a lot of Democrats
and I would roll over. Yeah, right.
Yeah. A lot of Democrats have been like, we do have a crime problem, even though we don't. And I would accept the National Guard, but not like this.
Not
and it's
like
like,
this. Yeah.
What are you Meanwhile, Brandon Johnson is like, we don't need the National Guard. Crime is an all-time low. Every single initiative I've taken to move money into public safety out of police has worked. And like, public safety is so much broader than just, cracking down on like petty theft or whatever the hell.
Right. Yeah.
And so like, this kind of leadership is such a breath of fresh air. But to your point, man, it's like, this is what I always say. I'm always like, Democrats and leftists need to have, our own ideas that scare the right just as much. but the media's got to cover it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
someone's got to report on, whereas like when the right says, hey, we're going to build a wall on the US-Mexico border
And like
out of
Republicans are going to build a wall. They're going to do a wall like you've never seen
exactly.
before. What's this
We're
one?
going to build it out of babies. We're going to build
Yeah.
it out of children. We're going to make children build a wall. We're going to build it out of
Right.
immigrants. Like, they're like, wow, this is what an incredible idea, but a little bit controversial.
I think it just shows kind of what the stakes are. And yeah, I mean, I didn't bring that up to be like, and it's going to happen tomorrow. But this whole time, as this administration just tramples over our rights, just without any resistance, I'm like, when is it time to get busy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think a lot of people want to be passive as all of this degradation happens around them. I think I think it's great to people to show up in physical space and show that, like, hey, man, we can actually get millions of people out in the streets. Now, what are we going to do? What's the next level here to actually find a way to push back tangibly that isn't just like hand wringing or expecting, some version of like, we will win. That's not enough at the moment. And I think that's where like you kind of see that truly the idea of even mentioning, not that I'm saying like and the strike's going to happen this week because he said it, but actually even acknowledging that was something, a remedy that Brandon Johnson brought up in his speech during the No Kings rally. I think that is such a disservice. But again, I'm not shocked based on the people that own most of the mainstream journalistic outlets that would report on something like this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and Brandon Johnson will get more negative press over giving teachers a raise or yes, moving funds out of, police, and then like a crime happens and then it's all on him. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to bitch about like, let's start really manifesting this and moving it into the realm of like real action. And it's a good segue because I did want to talk. I am going to bitch about something because I'm concerned with time. Possibly when everyone is gone and I can just bitch to the ether. We'll see after you and Summer are long gone. So I'm going to hold what I'm bitching about. But let's move into the week, because this was the week where the No Kings rally, protest, mass demonstration happened. 7 million people across the country. This is a number that doubled the Women's March in 2016. I don't think it rose to the level of the BLM uprising over the course of that whole, spring. Yeah. But still a massive rally.
Well, second, yeah.
And it was incredibly powerful and very, very important. And I think, just to give us a sense of how powerful it was, you've got a lot of right-wingers freaking out about it and assuming that they must be paid, that these 7 million people who took to the streets with all different kinds of signs.
There were new signs. I think that's what Trump said. I think they had new signs that Soros paid for. You're up on all the latest Soros signs or something?
Yeah, exactly.
In the catalog? Okay.
Yeah. And so here was Senator Ernst, and a representative, I'm not remembering her name, but it doesn't matter. This is who they think were at the march and why they were there.
Yes, thank you, Harris. I think it is extremely important that we look at who is funding these protests. We have to get to the bottom of this. It is a much larger organization. It could be the usual suspect, of course, George Soros.
Do you really believe that the approximately 7 million attendees who participated this weekend, according to the organizers, hate the United States of America?
Well, look at what they're standing for. They're standing for communism. They're standing for anti-Semitism. Just take a look at the rallies.
They're standing for anti-Semitism. Look at the rallies say no kings.
Yeah.
No kings.
Have you seen the signs? Like a lot of them are kind of like the cringy.
Yeah.
They're more offensive to my comedic sensibilities more than anything in a lot of the cases.
I will say versus like 20 years ago, man, when you step outside, this is my whole thing with going to a demo. Like if I don't have a good sign, it's like not having a good outfit when you go, see a select, like, some concert that you really like. Beyonce's totally going to see me if I go to her show. So I need to dress nice. The point is you've got to have a nice sign. The signs these days have like taken a massive step up. So like sometimes I get embarrassed about my sign, but you're absolutely right that it's like, the point is no one is above the law.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is acting above the law. He's basically sicking the U.S. military, the National Guard, on Americans, on all of us. And there's no such thing as due process anymore. He's obliterated, any kind of legal immigration system. He thinks he's above the law. He thinks the rules don't apply to him. It is no kings. But if you caught that, they're all paid by Soros and it's anti-Semitic. Well, George Soros is Jewish, of course. That's in part why.
That's why you evoke the name.
That's why you evoke the name,
because of your own anti-Semitism.
Exactly. That's why you're doing that. But then if you actually, not to get too deep in the Soros stuff, but apparently like the right also calls him a Nazi collaborator because he's a Holocaust survivor and was I think made to, point out or I don't know the exact history, but basically was told to rat on his, Jewish neighbors. And so they think they basically claim that he's also anti-Semitic.
They want to have it all ways.
No,
every single time, even with just the build up to the rally, right? Everybody was in their Benny Johnson bag doing my infant child died in a drug fire after mass shootings line about what these rallies were going to be. You had Mike Johnson being it's going to be very violent. You're going to see people out there who hate America. This is a hate America rally. And, we can't have this in our country anymore. And these people were very violent. And you get teachers.
That was good, but not enough smile and not enough filler. But good. Wow.
I'm with the ears, the facials. I'm still getting intact.
Podcasting.
Yeah. But and then you see that it's just normal people. It's older people. It's a lot of white people. And then you get all these other characterizations well, it doesn't actually matter. Actually.
And also okay. No arrests from what I saw. No arrests. No incidents. And, that speaks to who is behind it is not George Soros. It's indivisible, right?
Yeah. Right,
it is 50-51 movement, which again, they're great organizations, but they're not exactly the most militant of organizations. They openly had a, this is a nonviolent space. And
it ends at 1.
Exactly.
And it ends at 1, y'all. We're not.
I'll go use the bathroom at Starbucks and we go home. This is my problem with protesting in the United States. In a lot of ways, it's no, just stay out. You could just make a community situation of it. But Antifa, to the extent that they do exist, or Black Bloc, they're not going to this. You know what I mean? They're not.
No, they're laughing at. They're bro, this is not for us. This is how a lot of more militant leftists speak about it. They're the very cynical versions. This is just a co-opt. This is an operation to just co-opt the movement and redirect people to the Democratic Party, whatever. I'm right. And I'm sure that is too. But the fact of the matter is, there are enough people who are completely disillusioned with what's happening that it's not going to be as tidy as that's a very, I feel reductive way to look at it.
And I think let them 1,000 flowers bloom. I think this is very important. It really does. Look, there have to be safe spaces for people who have children, people with disabilities, people who are elderly, people who cannot risk arrest for whatever reason, immigration status. It is really important to have these mass things. And before we move to the critiques, because I do think there's one interesting critique I wanted to bring up. Let's go to the other reaction we saw from the president of the United States. Yes, he is the president. So whatever you're about to see, know that this is coming from a now demolished Oval Office, White House. This is part of
East Wing. It's just the East Wing.
It's just the
been blown apart right now. Yeah.
No, the best part about the demolishing of the East Wing is it looks like a real one small little digger. The photo we have
doing all that, just I don't know. It's doing great work.
Yeah. This is what Trump tweeted, and I'm gonna because there's a copyrighted song over it. Trump takes off in a fighter jet.
All right, sorry, Kenny.
Don't get it copyright stricken. That's just too good, Miles.
Thank you. Okay, so he's got a crown on. This is very realistic.
He's got a crown on. I'm pretty sure they did film this, right? This looks film that, and he did his blending good today.
Yeah, I'm sure you want the oxygen hose pinned against the strap of a seatbelt.
Doesn't it go over your mouth, or is it just? Doesn't it go over your nose? No, I don't know.
Look, we wanted to really capture the president's riz. We don't want to cover that face. He's not Bane, okay? We wanted to show his nose a little bit.
Really
I think it was they're thinking or something.
Okay, so he's flying And then all of a sudden, I don't know what the fuck fighter jet that is. The fighter jet starts dumping massive.
There's our healthcare insurance.
Yes, there's our healthcare. I'm surprised these are not just like poor people that are being dropped, but
it's his own feces, I think.
Just a lot of feces falls down. I'm sorry, that was just kind of a funny.
It's a pretty good still.
It's a funny still. Basically, dumps a bunch of sewage onto protesters for No King's Day. This is actually an influencer, Harry is it his last name, Enton? I don't know. I forgot his last name, but Harry, he's like very big on TikTok. I've been on Piers Morgan segments with him. So he gets it dumped all over him.
Harry Enton's the CNN data guy.
Whatever. Yeah. Same thing.
I don't ask aspersions on data guru Harry Enton of CNN.
Harry Cezanne, I'm sorry.
Don't get Harry Enton brought into this mess.
Is that the one who talks like? I just love how like brusquely Manhattan he is.
Yeah, and also talks way older than his age. I'm like,
you're
37? Yeah. You talk like you're 57.
Again. Anyway, this is what my man being the president of the United States is tweeting.
Yeah.
Poo-poo on you.
Yep. Because I mean, I guess if you don't have the optics of, burning autonomous vehicles or something that you can just play on a loop to be like, and look at what they did, they're losing it out there. And you just have a bunch of like normal looking American people with signs and kids. It's not like, well, fuck them. I'm shitting on this thing, like literally. Yeah. And that's sort of been the tack that they've approached this with.
I like, even for me, and I've been studying the slopaganda. I've been looking at it. Like, even for me, I'm like, oh, okay. Doesn't this seem embarrassing to you at some point to drop doo-doo on people and like a mass group of people?
Well, I think this is the thing, like just about AI in generally, right? Like it allows people who don't have a creative bone in their body to create tangible media. I wouldn't even call it art. They will create
turn their shitty jokes, content. Literally shitty jokes.
And they don't need to have any awareness of how any of this works. They go like, yeah, I was just like shit on them like in a fighter jet. Actually, I'm gonna type that into the thing, and that's what it is. And again, I think that's why they're so into it.
Like if this person had to draw it, right? Like if this person had to pen to paper, draw Trump in a fighter jet poo-pooing on protesters, I feel like that's, it would look exactly like, the drawings of a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm heartened by the amount of energy that they're expending trying to characterize this as one thing or another, because it's like, to your point, it is freaking them out, and I think for different reasons. But I think the one thing about insisting that everyone's a paid actor is, again, to really get their base on board with the idea that there's actually nothing wrong in the country right now.
Yes.
And there's no reason for anyone to enter physical space to protest the trampling of their rights, the disappearing of American people, the disappearing of children, whatever, the myriad of ills that we're facing. That is actually all an illusion. And the people that are out there are being paid to do that because everything's actually going great. And that's it.
Yes, and we can dump. And speaking of not Harry Enton, Harry Cezanne tweeted, can a reporter please ask Trump why he posted an AI video of himself dropping poop on me from a fighter jet? That'd be great, thanks. And JD Vance, quote tweeting, I'll ask him for you, Harry.
JD,
got him.
He's sick, man. I love that guy, dude.
Roasted.
He can talk to the president. He probably asked him too. And then he was like, who? Huh? Who are you? Get away. It's like, it's your vice president, sir.
The trolls, the trolling from the seat. Like, it's the same thing I feel about, like, if I ever had like money, like if I ever had power, I would fucking hope I'd have the decency to not do something so beneath the, like, again, this is me who's been protesting this country for 25 years. Being like, this feels a little bit beneath the office. Yeah, it does. It fucking does. You know what I mean? I'm more patriotic than I've ever been. Like, maybe the vice president shouldn't like troll people on X or whatever.
Right.
Like, Anyway.
It goes to show that the people who are pursuing the power should be nowhere near it.
Yes,
Because
totally.
the people who understand realize this is not a job you want to try and keep a country on the rails, to try and please a certain group of people, to try and better people's life. That's a whole other thing. With
Dan Bongino finding out the hard way, he's like, we got to get up every morning.
Like, what? He's like, can I podcast? No, what? You're the deputy director?
Share an office with Cash Patel.
Oh, man. All right, I'm taking lunch. I'm going to take a long lunch, all right? But like, with the whole MAGA set now, it's just a means to an end. The office is meaningless. They're just they just need whatever technical title they need to then be able to say, well, I'm above the regulations. I mean,
Teal's already in there. Like, their dudes are in there. Andreessen's in there. Teal's in there. All their homies are in there, starting their, Lord of the Rings inspired companies, getting government contracts. One last thing on this, because speaking of the critiques, I think they are valid. And the critique, rather than saying this is useless, it's not going to do anything, I disagree with that. I think street protests are deeply important for morale, for resistance. And no matter if the media fairly covers it, because let's be real, you had the Tea Party movement, AstroTurf by the Koch brothers, got so much coverage. Like, oh, is this the next resistance? Meanwhile, we're out here every fucking 2 years or less, screaming our heads off, and very little happens. And I felt like, Cameron Kasky, who was a survivor of the Parkland mass shooting and has since become an activist and a, pundit, was on MSNBC and had this, I think, very salient critique about the lack of young people at the No Kings rally. And I wouldn't say that was across the board at all. Sure. But he's making this broader point that my life, young kids have seen Occupy, March for Our Lives, BLM protests, Women's March, or Women's March, then BLM. They have seen some of the biggest uprisings and outpourings in terms of street demonstrations. And they have seen some of the littlest in terms of real policy change and real action. So here was his take.
But look, I was there today and I made a bunch of observations. First of all, not a lot of very young people. I think that my generation saw the definitive movements of our lifetime, Black Lives Matter, Me Too, the March for Our Lives, and said, okay, well, we're still watching black boys get murdered by cops. Somebody's getting put up for mayor in New York City who has a dozen credible sexual harassment allegations. We're still seeing schools get shot up. What are these protests going to do for us? The boomers who came out, and there were so very many of them, they saw the Vietnam protests, the civil rights protests, and there was something tangible that came out of that. But the protests that we've seen, there's been so much great awareness that's been spread. There have been victories on a smaller level, but they haven't felt like these protests have directly led to what we are going for.
So, again, I think this is a really fair critique given what, again, young people who maybe got involved in Occupy, maybe got involved in March for Our Lives, maybe got involved during BLM and have seen literally, nearly fuck all done about gun control, about prison reform and policing reform, about, breaking up big monopolies or, focusing on the economy the way that Occupy and back in 2000 and, what was it, 12 and 11 we're talking about. And Miles, there's a massive conversation, but I really do think that the answer is organizing. The answer is organizing, and the answer is smart organizing. I think that, this is a show that likes to platform organizers who are doing the real work. And I think that's really important. But I also feel like I've felt, and I've said this before, the Democrats have the outside power. Like when we talk about inside outside strategy, it means you need people in the halls of Congress, in elected office doing the work. And then you need the street pressure and the organizers also doing the work. I feel like we've seen in the last 15 years since Trump's, first when he was first elected, we've seen the street protests. We've seen the action. We've done our part. but we don't have political leaders willing to take the baton or work with. I mean, you had inklings of that during Biden's, when he was narrowing in on the election and the nomination, where he was
Mhm.
sitting down with Bernie, where he was sitting down with, what's the Sunrise Movement? Like there was the inklings of that, but either the pressure came off, and I've talked to Matthew Smucker about that, who is a movement strategist, about the pressure coming off from some of these organizations. But also, I think the politicians have not lifted up we want the Dream Act passed.
Mhm.
We want real immigration reform. I mean, I think maybe the last thing that was done based on political pressure was DACA.
Right.
DACA was maybe the last fucking and then when was that? Like, again, 2013?
Yeah, 12, 13, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I part of me wonders because there's clearly an articulated strategy from consultants and that class of operatives within the party that have been like, ignore the groups. The
Mhm.
groups got us into this mess because they're having us acknowledge people suffering basically in ways that we're try to not do because that might bring attention to our own failures as legislators.
Mhm.
But I think that is, I mean, like I don't fault these young people for thinking like, well, what's the point? But I do think that it's not a good thing to ignore what is happening, because I have younger family members who they're kind of like, they're young, so they're not quite seeing how this is all interconnected, how like suddenly it could mean that your video games are less fun to play because they're being bought by Jared Kushner and
Right.
MBS or whatever. But I think, yeah, that level of awareness, I think a lot of people generally, a lot of people also don't want to acknowledge how dire the situation is. And I get that, because you don't want to burn yourself out with cynicism. But at the same time, you don't also want to be caught off guard. And
Yeah.
I feel like having that awareness is massively important. I
Yeah.
think things will probably begin to evolve a bit. But yeah, I mean, like to your point, they're not flexing that outside power because I think before they felt that it flexed them or something into policy positions that they felt were like losing, which they in fact weren't. It was the lack of total
Exactly.
follow through on those.
Exactly. It's the fact that Biden, actually he won the presidency because of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
That much was clear. Like we did, we looked at the stats basically. That funneled votes into him. And, we saw Harris completely cut out the progressive base from underneath her, especially when it comes to issues that were on everyone's mind, like Palestine. But yes, I agree. When are we going to start some shit? And also, when are electeds going to, shit or get off the pot and do something
I mean,
or
like,
step out of the way?
they have the ability, they have investigative powers they can flex, there's things like that. But at the same time, I think that's why I was just so heartened by what Brandon Johnson was saying, because for the first time, every elected official who gets up to speak at one of these rallies is doing some version of like, and it's all messed up. Am I right? And we don't like that. No, sir. We're not doing this anymore. This is America. And this ain't it. And they leave.
Thank you. Now let me use the bathroom at Starbucks and go home.
There is, like, again, you are elected officials, and you have a leadership role by default here. Can you articulate a way for people to act now?
Yeah.
It's not talking about anything like illegal or anything, but saying, and this is what we need to start doing. And
Totally.
It's like, vote our asses off in 20. No, not that either. But understanding, guys, the tools used to be you could vote these assholes out in a midterm, and the blue wave or whatever wave would come. And that was one way to remedy this kind of stuff in the middle of a presidential administration. However, we find ourselves in a completely different time because these people are not playing by the rules. They're breaking the laws. And in fact, we don't even know if we're going to have free and fair elections in 2026. So with that in mind, we actually need to start thinking a little more abstract.
Maybe a little bigger beyond voting. And they're coming for the entire civil rights, the Voting Rights Act.
But yeah, and I think part of that too is that idea of people power is also very frightening to the establishment wing of the Democratic Party, because that actually means they are giving up power on some
Yep.
level, which
I
we've
mean-
seen they're hell bent on not letting go of.
Yeah, once Occupy came into the frame and they were like, "Oh shit, it's about our donors." Like I'm just gonna ignore that.
Hey, I hear they stink down there. Like, it's like, what are you talking about?
They're full of poo poo, AI poop, but still. Miles, I will bring you back in, but for now, I have to level with the viewers and the listeners to let them know that when I cannot sleep at night because of the AI doo-doo that is in my face that I just need to program away, I turn to my favorite CBD supplement, Sunset Lake CBD. I love their Goodnight Gummies, CBD, CBN, and a little bit of THC. And it gets me right to bed, gets the mind calm, gets the body calm, because that's what you need. You need that heaviness, right? They also have amazing tinctures. I love their new, their new teas. So if you want like an alternative to, alcohol, they have their CBD teas and they're really delicious. I'm not even saying that they are delicious. Yes, they support this show, but also they are objectively yummy. SunsetLakeCBD.com. Use the coupon code or the coupon Frantifa at checkout for 20% off your order. That's FRANTIFA at checkout, 20% off your entire order. Seriously, you shan't be disappointed with the goods that they have. They have tinctures even for like pets and stuff, and also lots of salves. What don't they have? They don't have shampoos yet. I'm sure they're going to get into it. Love Sunset Lake CBD, vertically integrated, Vermont-based, regeneratively farmed. They are largely worker run. They donate to amazing causes. And so I urge you to support them. And also, have I mentioned I am a busy mom? It's a blue moon when I have time to cook and sort of from scratch be like, all right, we're doing a meal that I didn't get from a meal kit, because I love meal kits. I really do. And one of the meal kits that I love is HelloFresh. And this fall, there's a bunch of new menus, very warm and good for the winter, chef design recipes, fresh seasonal ingredients, and it comes right to your door, of course. There is 100 new options each week, which is great. Not all meal kits have that many options. This is what you get. You get 5 options, not with HelloFresh. Seasonal dishes from around the world. There's bigger portions, and you can be more, it's hard to eat well. The quickest things are usually just a bunch of carbs. But they have high protein and veggie packed recipes. More veggies like snap peas, stone fruit, corn on the cob. I love it. So thank you to HelloFresh for supporting Bituation Room. And for all y'all, go to HelloFresh.com/Bituation10FM. That's BITCHUATION 10FM to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. Now, that's 1 per box with active subscription to get the free meals. It's applied as a discount on your first box, and it only applies to new subscribers only. But literally, seriously, this is no reason not to try it. No reason. And I think once you do meal kits, you'll be like, oh, this is good, and I don't waste food. And I love that. There's nothing rotting in the back of my fridge after this. Again, HelloFresh.com/Bituation10FM to get 10 free meals and a free item for life. And with that, let's welcome back Miles Gray.
I was actually just visiting Vermont.
Did it work?
What a beautiful place. I didn't realize Sunset Lake, Lake Champlain.
Oh, Sunset Lake, yeah.
Lake Champlain. I've been there, Vermont. It's a beautiful, beautiful lake.
See, that's where I want to go. I just want to be by a lake.
Yeah, it's tranquil. It's green. It's something. If
anyone has a lake house out there,
yeah,
holler.
Sunset Lake. They're based on they're on an island in the lake.
They must have a place to stay.
Sunset Lake have us there, man.
I'm just gonna roll up and be like, hey, I get to stay here, right? You sponsor the podcast.
Right. Let me in.
Miles, there is, honestly, since this whole year and since we've last spoken, there's been one bright spot in the entire Democratic Party, and that is Zohran Mamdani, frontrunner, Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City. And we are 2 weeks away from the election. And
they still can't get Curtis Sliwa out.
And Curtis Sliwa has a point. Curtis Sliwa is a Republican. Like,
Yeah, he's
Curtis Sliwa is like, I'm actually representing a party.
Yeah. I'm not a craven opportunist like some like Eric Adams. I mean, I am in my own way.
Oh, he's
but
definitely
not like
a craven
Yeah,
opportunist.
but not like to that level. I still want
Right.
to like represent the Republican Party with this beret on.
Well, Eric Adams is out.
Mhm.
So is the beret, I guess. But Curtis brought up this very point. Like, look, he shouldn't drop out of the race, as most anyone, to the right of Zohran is saying he should. He's a Republican, and Cuomo should drop out.
Yeah, you think you're the toughest guy alive. But let me tell you something. You lost your own primary, right? You were rejected by your Democrats.
Why
and
didn't
you
you
have a
send the
difficult
National Guard?
understanding that what the term no is.
right.
You're
Okay.
not going to stand up to Donald
thank you.
Trump.
Thank you.
I agree with Curtis.
You're not going to.
I love it. That was just basically turning into an argument that you see at like a bus terminal in New York. They're like, the thing is, you weren't strong enough. And Cuomo's like, yeah, what do you mean? Like,
You're not strong enough.
And you're like, guys,
The whole debate is one of those
yeah,
bus terminal fights,
Yeah.
especially between Cuomo and Sliwa, which is very funny. And like, yes, Sliwa is definitely not going to win, even though he says he's going to win. Cuomo is definitely not dropping out, unlike Eric Adams. And I think that, Zohran is likely going to win this. Again, 2 weeks away. There's another debate tomorrow.
I can't wait.
And there are amazing highlights from this last debate. But before we fully get into it, this was a new article that of course, the Wall Street Journal, I think, was the only one well positioned to do this article. And it sort of touches base with, what happens if Zohran wins? What happens to the people who have money?
Yeah.
What happens to people who don't need free buses because, ew, bus?
Oh, have you been on one? I would never. I would die if I was on a bus.
Absolutely not. And also, like, free childcare. Okay, we pay $6,000 a month for our. There's a French chef.
We trafficked people from Europe, okay, to be our help. This wasn't easy. I'm not about to take free city help. No, disgusting.
Exactly. And how dare you tax me more? So this was the article called New York's Richest Ask, How Dare He, as Mamdani closes in on City Hall. The how dare he, of course, is just sort of lifted from another quote, but we'll get into it.
Mhm.
I want to read this to you. It was just after finishing a set of pelvic floor exercises that a Pilates instructor on the Upper East Side recently brought up one of the least popular men in the neighborhood, New York City mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani. All of a sudden, the class, which cost $50 a pop, it's a pelvic floor. Come on now, that's not bad. Became something of a political confab. In between sets, some women strategize about helping former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, whom they see as more palatable, pull off an upset. Others gushed about a recent New York Post cover depicting Governor Kathy Hochul, who had recently endorsed Mamdani as a devotee of Mao Zedong. The idea that Kathy Hochul is Mao is just amazing. But the idea that, like, a room full of rich women are figuring out how to get a sexual predator back into office while working on their pelvic floor. I'm like, the amount of feminist backlash in one room is too much.
Again, it's so funny when you read these articles of the shook rich people, like when they're like, well, where do we go? Because I'll take my money. It's like, no, you won't. You say this all the time. You want to be in New York, deal with it. And you probably are going to. You want to talk tough because that's the only card you have to play is like, well, we'll take our money with us. It's like, and go, you're going to Florida for real? No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Okay, so sit your ass down and deal with it.
That's exactly what they talk about. Okay, so speaking of that, privately, according to the article, most rich New Yorkers who talked to the Wall Street Journal said they won't move, at least not yet. Many who would have decamped to Florida and Texas previously. Higher taxes would be annoying, but the city can't raise levies without Albany. Hochul recently backed Mamdani's expanded childcare plan, but has pledged not to raise taxes on the wealthy. Sure. I mean, this is the big thing of like, Hochul, save us from a fair tax rate. Oh,
yeah,
God.
exactly. Like again, just reveals that's an existential threat to these people. It's like, paying my fair share? No, that would actually, I'll die if that happens. And I'm here for the status quo at all costs. I'm here for the status quo-mo. Okay. That's what
Yes.
I'm on.
Yes.
You
I'm
can use
oh my
that, Zoran. Yeah, use that.
I was flying back from New York, and when you sit next to someone's insufferable conversation, and I'm saying it was like an
Like a
hour.
3-person row? Were you in a 3-person row?
Yes, a
Okay.
3-person row. I'm in front, and at the top of its lungs, Zoran is scaring everyone into socialism. He's scaring people, and I'm like, sir, you should be in business. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing back here? This is where people with kids
Yeah.
have no leg room. That is where we are.
You're talking way outside of your seat assignment.
Seriously, you should be up there to have that conversation.
Right. With people who
The
would actually
first people
understand.
we eat if
Right.
this plane goes down. But no, but yeah, I think just like anecdotally, I do think rich people are scared. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but the article talks about Mamdani leaning into the class issues harder than his predecessors. In one ad, he tapped Morgan Spector, Bay, the bearded star of the HBO hit Gilded Age, to roast the rich for whining about socialism while chomping on lobster. It was hilarious and effective, and as fast as lightning that made its way around the Upper East Side chattering classes, securities lawyer Richard Farley said of the ad. The response, Farley said, was incredulous, a combination of how dare he and that's pretty clever.
No, at least they knew they'd been had there.
They saw themselves. They were like, not the Gilded Age.
I mean, they're. I've always said this about Zoran. Like they're panicking because all of the usual sort of thought-killing cliche attacks they throw out at a candidate like this that used to work aren't working. We're like, he's a socialist, and it was like, yeah. People are like, hell yeah. They're like, what the? He's Muslim.
And they're
all
like,
right,
hell yeah. Yeah.
Fuck. He's fucking sucks at soccer. No, he's actually pretty good at soccer.
No, he was. He has a whole hip hop out. He has a rap album.
Cool. So does everybody in New York. Everybody. Yeah. In college, we were all in rap groups. Sorry, that's just what it is. Okay.
I think the biggest problem with the biggest stain on his past is where he's wearing that apron and he's got a nip out. He's showing a nip.
Yeah, it's hard. And so now they're panicking. And like, exactly. That's like why they're even being like Hochul as Mao. Come on. That's where you're at. That's all you come up with. And that's what I like is that these people were so entrenched in their invincibility as a class that they could just simply be like, well, that's a socialist. End of story.
Yeah.
And that now they haven't realized that the temperature has completely changed around them. That those attacks just ring completely hollow to an electorate who is being completely hollowed out by our economy and our predatory.
And they kind of know this. So this is the last thing. I love this. One hedge fund founder who was a major donor to President Trump proudly declared he's rooting for Mamdani only because he thinks a victory by the nominee would boomerang and make it easier for conservatives to take control in later elections. Yeah, it's not going Republican, my guy.
Yeah.
Others are prepared to make the best of it. One CEO says she already spends as much time as she can in Rome and is thinking about making a more permanent move. Quote, it's not like the guillotine is coming out, said Roberts, the retired banker who spoke via Zoom from a vacation in Paris.
I love those details. It's not like the guillotine's coming out, as he said from his pied a terre or whatever you call that in France. Good for them. You know, I'm glad that at least they have the perspective that that's not what is happening. So can you tell your other billionaire friends, like, yo, come on now. It's not like they're going to lop your dome off here. They're just asking you to pay a little bit more. But anyway, I'm going to leave because I don't want anything to do with that.
Let's go to the place where they actually will bring out the guillotine.
Right. Yeah. From Paris. It's like, interesting. Have you seen some of the...
Do you think he pronounced guillotine in the French way? However,
how do you say guillotine?
I don't know. Guillotine. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you're respecting that UILL right there. So, you know, unless you're an American, it's like, it's not like the guillotine is coming out.
True. This is true.
The guillotine.
I think he said the guillotine.
The guillotine is not coming out, folks.
I'm sorry. The what? You live where?
The guillotine. I'm in Paris, France. Ever heard of it? I'm about to go to the Champs d'Elysees later. Okay. Sick. Probably never heard of it. It's where all the good stores are.
I'm sure you went over this, but I could not miss an opportunity to look at some of the like short but funniest moments of the debate. Again, there's going to be other ones. I did see
that one clip of Zohran just absolutely deep frying, cooking Cuomo.
Oh, you mean this?
Mr. Mamdani, want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Over.
What are you gonna fucking how?
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Mamdani. Well, there was a
or whatever, however he mispronounced
Mamdani.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Cuomo fired back at what he thought was a disgraziata.
Oh,
Because apparently, in fact, he did. Zohran has a picture of himself flipping off the Columbus statue, so that became a discussion.
My God.
Protect the Christopher Columbus statues that exist here in the city?
I'm telling you, my focus is on affordability. I'm not thinking about
Well, you're not
statues.
answering the question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
They're not answering
He
the question.
gave the finger to the Columbus Day statue.
that issue's come up
That's what we
earlier
call
in
it,
the debate. All right,
disgraziado. What's
Disgraziata.
Okay. Motherfucker, you're not auditioning for Sopranos on that one episode where they were turning up over the people protesting at the Columbus was a great Italian. He was Genovese from Genoa.
The Italian discrimination. I just want a non-embarrassing Italian in just in the public eye. I'm serious. As a half Italian,
Right.
I would like someone with as many vowels in their last name as I do.
Yeah.
To just not be fucking embarrassing on a national stage and make Christopher mass genocide child rapist Columbus your guy.
Also,
and definitely don't disgraziata. You're not stop with the ethnic white bullshit.
Oh, he gave the finger to an inanimate object. Dude, you're credibly accused of sexual assault and harassment. I'm sorry. How do those measure? Let's put those both on a scale and you tell me what actually presents more of a danger to human beings around us than someone being like, fuck this statue. Oh, man.
Here was one of the last questions. Miles, you give me your read.
Go to breakfast order at the bodega. Mr. Sliwa?
Oh. Eggs and cheese on a roll. No salt, please.
Mr. Cuomo?
same thing, no salt also.
I'm sorry. Sorry. That's not an answer.
cheating.
Same thing, no salt also.
All right, fellas. What's your favorite Wu-Tang album? For Curtis, we go first. For me, obviously, Enter the 36 Chambers. It's a classic. Obviously, Staten Island, a big moment for them. Okay, Governor Cuomo, the same. Also, what he said. Those are my favorite. That's my favorite Wu-Tang albums. Just
whatever he said.
He always gets caught up on the food thing because remember he was asked what his bagel order was. Do you remember that? From
and
earlier in the election?
did he just say ditto?
No, he said. They said, "What's your bagel order in New York? It's your breakfast bagel." He said, "Let me get a bacon, cheese, and egg." First of all, you got the order wrong. It's a bacon, egg, and cheese, but you said bacon, cheese, and egg on an English muffin. The question was your bagel order,
an English muffin.
and then he said no, and then I think he's like, "Hold the bacon," and you're like, "Then why did you even say it? Dude, just get out of here. Get out of here." It's that one always gets you caught up. That's when you know
the culture is shifting. You know,
Exactly.
I understand it's not polite to grope women or say bacon, egg, and cheese.
He
You
said
have to put
he's
the
like,
cheese first.
I
then...
avoid the bagels to keep my girlish figure.
Oh my god!
And you're like, dude, you shouldn't be talking about girlish figures right now.
Please,
at all,
don't
but
say the word girl ever, even
go
by
on,
accident.
Andrew. Go on. Andy.
Miles Gray of the Daily Zeitgeist. Where can people find you? Follow your work. Thank you so much for being here.
Find me everywhere that has at symbols at Miles of Gray, MILESGRAY. Obviously, you know how to spell of. That's OF. And then you can find me every day, usually twice a day, talking about what is happening everywhere in our society, politics, culture on the Daily Zeitgeist. And if you like 90 Day Fiance, because look, this is just a theory I have, but I feel like most high intellect people love 90 Day Fiance, which I'm sure many of your viewers
High
and listeners
IQ
are.
viewers.
High
Yes.
IQ, high mentality, high intellect people. Check out my other podcast called 420 Day Fiance.
I love it. Thank you, Miles. I can't believe you can podcast while high. Because I can't do anything. And now let me bring my next guest in. She's represented Pennsylvania's 12th congressional district since 2022, ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform Subcommittee on Federal Law Enforcement. She also serves on the Committee on Education and Workforce, and her name is Representative Summer Lee. Hello.
Hey, good to see you again.
Oh my gosh. So the last time you were here, it was the precipice of the election, and you said something prescient. And, I said, what if, if Kamala wins, what are your thoughts? And you were like, I think it's good, but also I wish we could have done it with a broader coalition and bringing everyone along. And then she didn't win. And my mind immediately was like, maybe we should have had a broader coalition.
I think a broader coalition is still the lesson waiting to be learned, which is a terrible thing to say, right? We're many, many months since November, and I just still fear that we have just not learned any of the lessons that we were supposed to, not just from November, obviously, like leading up to it, but definitely in November. If that was a moment to do anything, it was to stop and say, holy shit, what do we need to be doing different? Who do we need to listen to, who we're not? Who do we need to stop listening to? And it just feels like we still have room to grow.
To put it so politely. Yeah, I mean, we're still out here. There are pundits peddling ideas like we should endorse, pro-life, which is really anti-choice candidates. And back to the running to the center. I'm like, I don't even know how far we can run to the center without just being MAGA. Like at some point you're on the other side.
Definitely running out of tape.
Look, Representative Lee, you are here. It is day 21 of the shutdown, the government shutdown. It's unclear when this will end. I know that by November 1st, people have to start buying their healthcare on the marketplace. I know I do. And we don't know whether our premiums are going to be going up, an insane percent. And, there's also, I believe, come November 1st or come next week, maybe you can clarify, SNAP benefits are going to be running out for millions of Americans. And to say nothing of the 700,000 furloughed workers. We're still in this shutdown. I'm worried about flying, like air traffic controllers, TSA agents. Tell me about this moment and like what move the Democrats have been making here, what move the Republicans are not making, and why we are where we are.
Certainly. So just to put it in perspective, right? Because even as we talk about things that have happened before, we still have to recognize that everything that happens now is happening in a new era, a new regime, right? We've had government shutdowns before. Arguably, this is the first government shutdown in what is objectively an authoritarian regime. So just thinking about the ways in which they have been escalating their tactics, the ways in which they have been just mask off attacking federal workers, right? Because the attack on federal workers didn't begin with the shutdown. The attack on federal workers has been ongoing all year. He's been, firing them, attacking the federal unions, the federal worker unions, so even now threatening those workers who are furloughed with, withholding their back pay, right? Ongoing. The attacks on Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, social safety net programs. On the other hand, also, they've been just aggressively, viciously attacking them. So right now, the way that I unfortunately see this is for those working class folks, it's like most vulnerable people in our society. It's, like in those movies, like those Indiana Jones movies where you see like the spiked walls closing in on one side, right? On one side, it's like on October 30th, that's a paycheck day, November 1, right? November 1st, folks got to pay their rent. They have to pay, whatever other bills they have and still do all of the things that are still expected of them in a society where folks who have jobs are expected to do those things, right? Mm-hmm. Then on the other end, the healthcare crisis is a very real crisis, right? People are already getting their notification that their premiums might triple, might double. And, that's unconscionable. So I think that what's happening here, for the Democrats is just this recognition that we can't keep letting people drown. We can't keep allowing the most marginalized people in our society to be used and sacrificed over and over and over again. And then also, yes, we recognize that we are negotiating with bad faith negotiators. So it's when the shutdown started to happen, that was not the first day that we mentioned the fact that these healthcare tax credits were expiring.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So, that it just shows that, Republicans don't care about these folks. That's why, Mike Johnson hasn't called us back. He doesn't care. He ain't working class. He doesn't have to worry about missing a paycheck and doesn't worry about his healthcare going up. So they can't even relate to what people are doing, and they're willingly using these folks.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it is also a stopgap measure to use a government shutdown, and I have thoughts on, I wish Schumer had done this, back in March. Or when I think, it would have had more leverage and maybe stopped some of the most egregious things in terms of the attack on federal workers, or at least attempted to, and holding up the budget, which I think was really important. But now we there's other reasons, right? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, it feels like one very small tactic, but an important tactic nevertheless. And apparently Democrats are also, voters are like, yeah, do it. Like, this is important. Let's do it. Yeah. And there's another reason why maybe Mike Johnson doesn't want government open. And that is because, I mean, he basically called an early recess, if you remember.
This ain't the first time. This ain't the first time. Like, this man has been dodging work all years because these Epstein files are haunting this man.
Exactly. The Epstein files, he called an early recess because the Epstein files were coming down the pike, and you've had a role in trying to trigger a House vote or push a House vote to release some of these files. Tell me about where this stands, what your role has been in all this.
So, that a lot of us believe that the reason why he is not bringing us back right now is because he doesn't want to swear in Adelita Grijalva, who would become what is the 218th person, which means that we now have a majority of people in the House who want the Epstein files released. Now, saying that, we already did this. The reality is we already did this. Like you're mentioning, I think back in July, literally, it was the last thing that we did in the House. We still had the subcommittee hearing where I was the ranking member. And it was a subcommittee hearing where we were talking about child sex trafficking. And here we are talking about that at the very same, or we're pretending to talk about that at the very same time that Mike Johnson is trying to run us out of town early so that, he can stop, his own members from demanding the release of these files. So we saw it as an opportunity to do a motion to subpoena the Department of Justice. Yeah. And, too much to, our, delight, Republicans joined us. So that was actually legally binding then, right? That subpoena to get all of the Epstein files. And people ask us often, like, oh, this is going to be redacted. Well, I'll tell you what. Our subpoena calls for the full, complete, unredacted files, but for the names of survivors, right? So nothing else should be redacted, right? We call for that. That motion is legally binding, which means that the Department of Justice is actually compelled to do it. So they're still stalling. Of course, as you all might remember, they did the first tranche. That first tranche was, a lot of information that we already know exists.
Yep.
But they've been stalling since, Trump tried to say that they don't exist, even though Pam Bondi says she's sitting with the files on her desk. We've talked to some of the survivors. They've come to talk to us, to tell us to keep digging. They said, keep going. There's so much more to see. And right now, we're so close to the accountability that, they deserve. You can see it in the way that they're panicking. You can see it in the way that they're starting to circle those wagons again, right? Protecting, their wealthy interests. But it's starting as a house of cards and it's starting to collapse. We saw it most recently with the prince over in England, who, is finally, meeting accountability. We're going to see it. We're going to see more. But that's what we know right now.
Yeah, I mean, and today, the late Virginia Giuffre, who was trafficked by Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell again, who clearly struck a deal with the president's personal lawyer to get herself moved to, Club Fed, as they call it, a very low security prison, someplace that a sex trafficker should not be, especially to the degree that she, was involved. She came out with a memoir today, obviously posthumously, and details of the horrors that she endured while being trafficked by Epstein. And I think it's really important. We have to remember, look, Trump didn't find her to work at Mar-a-Lago, but she worked at Mar-a-Lago when she met Ghislaine Maxwell. Why? Because Maxwell and Epstein were at Mar-a-Lago. These guys are neighbors of Donald Trump in Palm Beach. They're all neighbors. They know each other. That's how she was even trafficked. And again, yes, Prince Andrew and the horrors that she endured with him. There is an unnamed prime minister that people are speculating. I haven't seen it confirmed, but that is the former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, who abused her in the most graphic ways. So this is it's very inescapable. I do think what I appreciate about someone like you leading it is or being part of it is because I know where your values lie. I know that you want to get to doing the real work for the American people when it comes to addressing needs around healthcare and housing and, climate change and all of the things that you have fought for. And the Epstein files matter, and it matters to hold powerful people accountable.
Absolutely.
And it's not a distraction, right? It's actually very central.
The only people who are saying it's a distraction, which is like a small group of people, because they woke up one day and they realized that even their base was calling for this, right? Fundamentally, Americans are tired of this idea that rich, powerful people get to live one way, they get to live by one set of rules, and everybody else gets to live by another. If that's what brings you to this, then I think that is perfectly fine. Because you're right. Just because somebody is a billionaire, or they know a billionaire, or they know a president, or they know a prince or a king, does not mean that they should be able to victimize people. But second, this is so many people talk about, the survivors of especially childhood sexual trafficking. And we're talking about the most prolific sex trafficking ring in American history, outside of enslavers. And to see, we know it wasn't just two folks. It wasn't. And the fact that people are bending over backward, this is obstruction coming from the White House. This is obstruction coming from the highest levels of our own government and other folks' governments. When we think about how deep this really is, right? So many people who are being protected right now, who are walking around, and what do? When folks get around without accountability, they go on to harm more people. So if you're somebody who believes in, just justice and accountability for the survivors, then this is something that we need to focus on, because it doesn't get bigger than this.
Yep. I just want to play this because, in the same press conference that Mike Johnson is applauding Donald Trump for tweeting an AI video of him dropping poop on protesters, this is what Johnson had to say about Adelita Grijalva, who is waiting to be sworn in by him.
I will administer the oath to her, I hope on the first day we come back, legislative session. I'm willing and anxious to do that. In the meantime, instead of doing TikTok videos, she should be serving her constituents. She could be taking their calls. She can be directing them, trying to help them through the crisis that the Democrats have created by shutting down the government.
Just don't do TikTok videos. Now, if you're not sworn in, you can't take a vote.
Not only can you not take a vote, but you don't have resources, right? He's talking about why doesn't she pick up a phone and call her and answer her constituents? Well, she doesn't have constituents because she remains a representative elect without a staff, without the resources to buy an office, without the resources to buy a phone. People think that stuff just comes, with the office. That is just not true. You have to build your office. And the fact that she has now been sitting here for basically a month and can't start that process, is a big disservice. So, I mean, aside from that being a whole load of bullshit, right? Also, let's agree. I'm certain that she would love to go and serve her constituents. Why don't you empower her to do that?
Absolutely. I remember the question I wanted to ask you, because we do know that actually Congress is getting paid while the government is shut down. Do you agree that Congress should be paid when a government is shut down? Where do you stand on that?
I think it's a terrible situation. I don't agree that anybody shouldn't be paid. I think that right now, while we're looking at the White House construction, and you're going to convince me the White House construction, the White House lights are on, and the houses, the Capitol Hill lights are on. Why are we not able to put aside money to pay people who are doing really important work? That doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. I don't even at certain state levels, you don't see folks going unpaid just because there's a government shutdown. So I think that that's irresponsible off top. That our folks are working without pay, or that they aren't able to work, is ridiculous. I think we can solve that. As for member pay, here's my deal. On the one hand, I absolutely understand it. I won't even lie. I just talked to federal workers who are genuinely I don't know how I'm going to make it this month. We're talking about how we can coordinate services, mutual aid.
Yeah.
For folks in our community.
I mean, you have military members in waiting in line at food banks.
You do. And on the other hand, I do recognize also that I think that what people are really yearning for, they're like, I feel like these members of Congress wouldn't do this if they had to suffer through it the same way. And it's also just not true. I have colleagues who are billionaires.
Yeah.
Right? I have colleagues who are billionaires. This paycheck isn't their main source of pay. Like, they're not doing it. So on that one hand, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we're all coming into the negotiating table, even. I want to make sure that as somebody who represents a working class neighborhood, that I'm able to fight for them working class people as loud, as long, as aggressively as folks who are coming, who trade stocks, who own half the houses in their district. I want to be able to fight on the same page as them. And my district deserves for us to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm not even going to say I'm torn. I'm not torn about whether Congress should get the money. I'm torn about whether or not federal workers we should ever be able to withhold their pay. I don't think that those folks should be living like that. So yeah, I get it.
So it's basically like the people who are in the pocket of the billionaires are not, it's no sweat off their back if they're not getting paid.
The political answer is like, we should all be withholding our pay. But I just know that that's not going to solve our problem.
Right. They'll do it. They'll still do it anyway.
Is this going to make working class Congress people? We do exist. It's going to make those folks, have to buckle under pressure. They're not going to hold out for the longest deal. But it also means that we shouldn't be fighting. We shouldn't be in a shutdown if we don't believe in this.
Yeah.
We should never bring our people to the precipice like this if we do not believe that the thing we're fighting for is worth throwing down for. I believe that healthcare is worth throwing down for. I believe that back with the big, beautiful bill, I believe that was like saving Medicaid was worth throwing down for. Some of the folks didn't. So yeah, I think that this system is terrible, and it harms these people intentionally. It uses these federal workers. It uses our neighbors, our family members on purpose. And I think we need to get to the heart of that.
Yes, agreed. I want to pivot because news broke today that one of the 1,600 Capitol rioters who was pardoned by Donald Trump, a guy named Christopher Moynihan, he was arrested after texting friends, I guess, or other people that he wanted to eliminate Speaker Hakeem Jeffries during an event in New York City on Monday. There was a quote I had, but anyway, I mean, this is in a series of months where we saw, an elected representative in Minnesota and her husband and their dog be gunned down by a crazed extremist, a right winger, in their own home. There is very real violence and threats of violence coming at Democrats. Again, I don't agree with Speaker Jeffries on a lot of political issues, but the idea that but I will defend people from this kind of violence. What is it like to go to work every day with people whose base, whose voters, who hand wave away the kind of violence that is coming from their side? I guess my question is, there's been a theory of like, they're afraid too. Like, they are afraid they're going to be harmed too. So they'd rather sick, their psychos on Democrats than face that wrath. But just give me your sense of like this moment again, because it is very different. It's a really dangerous moment.
It is. I don't doubt that they're afraid again, but this is what they created. This political environment is precisely what they have built themselves, and that they are now at the whim of the same sort of political violence and rhetoric that we are is obvious to anybody who care to understand history, to care to understand how these types of regimes grow. Yeah, no, I mean, it's horrifying. Like, but as somebody who is like, I'm here to fight for justice. I'm here to fight for marginalized people. It's always been dangerous to do that work. It has always been dangerous to speak out against the system, whatever party is in control. It's always been dangerous to speak about how that system still impacts Black and brown folks, queer and trans folks. It's always been dangerous to do that. To see our political system get to this point, though, I think on the one hand, you're shocked. On the other hand, that's American exceptionalism to even think that we couldn't get here. Yep. Right? How often through our history have we seen, democracies fall? See how quick it happens. See the same, blueprint follow. We're looking at the same blueprint everywhere. And honestly, the first folks who they usually come for are their own folks who then go against the party line.
I mean, John Bolton just got indicted.
Yeah. So I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked that some guy who, was willing to seize the Capitol, to keep, the president, the safe exchange of power from happening. I'm not shocked that he is still attacking or still threatening his political opposition. I'm shocked that Republicans are able to gaslight us the way that they are right now, right? Every day you see like Ted Cruz, on Twitter, just tweeting his heart out. Just on Twitter, like, oh my God, this isn't real. But like this guy who made fun of Donald Trump's neck, that's political violence, right? While these group chats of
The Nussie, please, the Nussie. Yeah.
Right?
No, people are being.
They want to equivocate, like they want to make us pretend that us talking about, their parents are chuckling at them or ripping on them is political violence when their people are literally, we've seen it. Like we've seen the imagery from Obama on. We have seen it. We all saw what those group chats said. We saw how racist they were. We saw them say that they're Nazis. We're hearing them admit it in public, and we still have the vice president of the United States say, "Oh well."
There's a Trump. Yes, the Trump nominee saying that MLK Jr. Holiday belongs in hell and that he has a Nazi streak. Paul Ingrassia, again, another sad Italian. He's gonna be Office of Special Counsel.
Radicalize some folks.
What?
Columbus Day is like really radicalized.
I mean, clearly, like, wow.
Columbus Day was a bridge too far.
I mean, I love it's like the toy you're not playing with that suddenly your brother or sister is like, I want that toy. Oh, I love Columbus. When? Since when did you love Columbus? No, you didn't. Let's pivot and talk about a little bit of the ceasefire, but Israel-Palestine. Look, we know Israel has violated the ceasefire multiple times, killing dozens of Palestinians. But they also have killed Americans in the West Bank and in Gaza. And you recently spoke out at a press conference, I think very beautifully, about actually, your own constituents who are Palestinian American, who've been directly affected by this genocide and by the occupation in the West Bank. Just to name, not your constituents, but Saif Musallat of Florida and Aishnur Agi, who now I'm forgetting where she was from, but these are two young Americans who were killed in the West Bank. You are calling to hold Israel accountable for these Americans' deaths. Why does that matter? And what does that look like to you?
Yeah, to be clear, we're of course calling, for Israel to be held accountable. I'm calling for my own country to be held accountable. I just think that it's shameful and it's embarrassing that we would allow our citizens, our children, to be harmed by another country's government, by their military, and not step in. What does that say to the world, right? That Americans are, that we're vulnerable, that people can pull one over on us. And if it's a country that the United States has a relationship with, then they'll be able to get over it. Like that's what it's concerning. That's what's always been concerning, that this genocide and the violence and the expansion, the illegal expansion of settlements in the West Bank, all of those have happened with our complicity and our direct help. And right now, what we are most calling for is for the United States to change course. It's for us to say, it's not good enough to say, oh, well, Netanyahu is bad, I get that. Or it's not good enough to say, well, I disagree with the settlers, doing that. I disagree, with the ways in which, the genocide has been conducted. It's not good enough to say that because we actually play a role in it. We can change the course of how all of this is playing out. We can decide that we will no longer, arm a state that is violating our own laws and international laws that we agree with. We can decide that.
Yep.
And I just think that, again, I think it's a shame. But yeah, but it's important that we keep the attention on this because I believe the 16-year-old Muhammad, he's not home. He's not home yet. He is still alive.
He's in a Israeli prison.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's terrifying. I think he's reports that he's like has scabies or something awful. I mean, we saw the conditions of some of the prisoners during this, hostage release of Palestinians and how they were treated. And it's, it is terrifying. I mean, when I was coming up kind of in the anti-war movement, Rachel Corrie was murdered in Gaza by a bulldozer, and she was trying to protect a home. And that was a white girl from Washington State who was bulldozed to death. and there's been no accountability.
And her parents are still in the fight for accountability,
Yes, they
not
are.
just for her, but for all of the people, especially children,
Yes, absolutely.
whose lives have been
And
wrecked, literally.
you have a moral clarity that I think a lot of us respond to. You represent, I think, what a lot of us want to see in office. Recently, there have been a number of presidential hopefuls making the podcast rounds on other shows, like Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, Cory Booker, who's currently in office. I mean, Newsom as well, but who've been kind of like waffling on this question of genocide and specifically of receiving money from the Israeli lobby and AIPAC. Newsom was like, I don't know about rescinding, weapons aid to Israel. I'd have to, it's complicated. And same, Buttigieg was very complicated for him. And Newsom thought it was weird to talk about AIPAC at this moment. I don't know if they're going to pass the smell test for some of the Democratic base that really, 70% of Democrats believe that Israel is committing genocide. And majority of Americans, not just Democrats, majority of Americans think we should stop sending weapons to Israel. This is not about party. This truly is a cultural, a moral sea change, Representative Lee. So I'm wondering, where you stand on AIPAC money. I know they have thought of you as a target in, your next election.
All of my elections, yeah.
In all your elections, right? How do you just give me your thoughts on sort of who's meeting this moment and also how you're able to meet it, yourself, given the money that can come at your opposition.
So first of all, I am adamant about getting money out of politics, right? And it's why it is one of like the most important things that I work on in Congress right now. Not to say that everything else, like climate change and criminal legal reform and, education and healthcare, all of that isn't important. It's to say that none of that is going to get done until we have addressed this money and politics issue. That's why I introduced, our abolish Superpacs bill, so that your AIPACs, your crypto PACs, whoever it is, cannot consistently amass the types of money to spend on one person in one district at a time, right? So I'm very no. It's big no for me. But also, again, it brings us back to the beginning. Remember when I said that we're like not learning the lessons that the election has to teach us? This is one of them, right? So many people in the last election did not understand why people were not reacting the way that they thought when they were being left out of the coalition. Like, we're leaving you out of coalition. Why aren't you just grateful? And why don't you just come along? Right? We're not responding to, your cries. We're not being sensitive and compassionate, to those folks, those especially Palestinians who are saying, oh my God, my family is here. My family is being murdered, right? There was very little compassion, very little understanding. There's never really any nuance when we're talking to them, but they always say that, oh, it's too complicated for your moral stance. It's too complicated for your moral stance, right?
Yeah. Accepting money from the Israeli lobby. I don't know, or tempering weapons.
Way of silencing debate and dissent and absolving them of the responsibility of moving in a way that is actually, morally aligned with where they claim to be. So I just think, listen, I've been watching the videos and I was just like, I just wish that they would just call it what it is. You can say that your friends did a bad thing if they are still your friends. Yes. You should still reevaluate the way that you navigate the friendship. You can say that this is a genocide without being anti-Semitic.
Yes. Well,
absolutely. Not only can you, we must, because these are human beings. These are human beings at the other end of them. You cannot say that you care about the hostages in one breath, and then also say that you don't care about the tens and tens and tens of thousands of children who have been killed, who have been maimed, who are now being starved. You cannot hold both of those at the same time. Oh. So I would like to see Democrats, if for no other reason, listen to their constituents. But the reason that they don't is because of the money that comes in. Too much money comes in opposing the things that we care most about, whether it's a genocide or whether it's big pharma or whether it's oil and gas or whether it's, the healthcare industry. All of these interests run against all of the polling in this country. And yet our Congress people keep going and keep doing it. Sorry. To you.
Representative Seth Moulton said he will not accept donations from AIPAC in the future and will return donations he has already received from the group. You know, I just a little CC Jimmy Gomez. It's never too late to give back the money you've received. Sorry, that's my district over here in California. But I do think people are not taking this lightly. And one of those PACs, and I guess here's my question to you. One of the big PACs is also the crypto PAC, which I thought was unfathomable as a thing. And then when it became a thing, I'm like, okay, we live in hell. And I know there are some, good allies, some good fighters who openly take crypto money, even though the crypto industry is, I believe, deeply dangerous. I think it undermines democracy, it undermines our economy, and they have thrown down very strongly with Donald Trump and his lackeys. You've got, Andreessen, Horowitz, all that nonsense, and blah, blah, blah. So do you apply this to crypto as well? And also, what do you make of the argument that we have to fight fire with fire? We need to use the same tools. We have to accept this so that otherwise we're never going to get ahead. We should just play by these very rigged billionaire rules because at least they'll be our billionaires. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm against it. I'm against it across the board, right? I think that even because what we're actually saying is two things. And I'm sorry to take up time saying this, but like this is my thing, right? It's two things, right? It's one, the fact that no industry, no company, no corporation should have outsized influence in our democracy. It's precisely the slippery slope that got us to, an inauguration of a president with a group of oligarchs standing behind him. Right. That's how we got here. These are the systems. These are the loopholes that they exploited in our campaign finance to be able to get themselves and thus their interests, a front row seat, not just in the Oval Office, not just in the Oval, like really in the Oval Office, right there. So we have to be very, honest about that. Right. Crypto PACs are the largest spending PACs in the last election cycle. So I know we spend a lot of energy on AIPAC, and they are big. And crypto actually followed them in a lot of places and had a couple more dollars to spread around. And then you saw a couple months ago us voting on, this deregulation package or bill, that is going to basically get them. That's what they did, right? It was a return on investment. If we are pretending that this is not a return on investment, then we're just not being honest. And the second thing is the districts that they typically target. People are upset at me when I talk about the fact that AIPAC often goes into Black and brown and particularly poor districts. And there's a reason for that, right? Because they know when they come after a first generation like me, first generation college student, grew up Black, poor, middle class, and a woman, and they come after someone like me because they know where's she going to get money from.
Right.
If we put in $5 million, where will she get $5 million from? Where would a district, where would St. Louis get that money from, right? Where would these districts get that type of money from? But what it's functionally doing is it's keeping those poor and Black and brown communities from having the type of representation that gets to focus on their issues first. Right. It's not about whether or not they can do something. It's about whether they should do something. It's about whether or not you believe that Black folks deserve self-determination in our government too, that our communities deserve to be represented without our member having to, take an Israel trip, without having to, promise to vote this way or that way. Almost without having to being able to ever think about the issues dealing with their own district. So no, I think we should get rid of them. When it comes to the unilateral disarmament, there's a response to that too. Because guess what? We can actually get rid of them in Democratic primaries. What's to stop us from doing it there? What's to stop us from saying that in our primaries, which means Democrat on Democrat, we will not accept that type of campaigning in our system, right? This is not even to say we're going to go to the general and do what we do. This is to say, why would you be welcoming? Why does this party welcome, crypto or AIPAC or Pharma or whoever, but especially those two coming into these districts, the ones that are most likely to send your new talent, your young folks, your more representative folks. This is the only chance that sometimes young Black folks get to break into the system. And we're happy to unleash big money packs on them because they're afraid that those young people are going to come and disrupt the status quo. So
I mean, first of all, beautifully said. I mean, we saw what happened to Representative Cori Bush, not Cori Bush, and obviously Jamal, better Cori in my opinion. And obviously Jamal Bowman, Representative Bowman, same exact thing. The amount of money spent on George Latimer, Christ. But I do think this is why it's relevant. It's not just about the moral issue of genocide and supporting it. It really is indicative of how else you're going to stand up to big money. And they're a lot of Democrats are playing this game of like, oh, just because I accept, like $3 million from AIPAC doesn't mean I'm beholden. It's like, what are you talking? You literally think we were born yesterday. Like the gaslighting is deeply disturbing.
And then they say they care about democracy reform.
Yes.
This is the base of the democracy reform issue. You do not have a democracy if only wealthy people get to participate.
Yep. I have one last question for you, Representative Summerlee, which is a weird one. What is happening with Representative Marjorie Greene? I'm sorry to ask you about her. She is called what's happening in Gaza genocide. She's out here talking about we need healthcare to lower the cost of healthcare because she's got 2 kids who are, their premiums are going to be going up. I think they're now aging out of being on her plan. She's talking about economic, populism in a certain way. I have my thoughts, but I am very curious of the strange bedfellows of someone like Marjorie Greene.
Yeah, I still live by the saying is when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. She has definitely spent a lot of time showing us who she is. So I don't get excited by those things. But also, I do believe in opt-in. Creating an opt-in. I want more people to recognize the genocide for what it is. I want them to do that. And I also want them to not be anti-Semitic people. I want people to believe that we can have a Medicare for all system. I want them to do that, not just because their kids are leeching off of them or the fear that their child might leech off of them, right? I want people to believe in the humanity of poor and working class people outside of election cycles. So on the one hand, right, welcome to voting with us on these things. But then I also get to see her and interact with her in between every other vote. So what I say to that is that, again, when people show you who they are, you still believe them, right? She still votes the same way. She still votes the same way 98% of the time. She still votes in ways that has empowered Donald Trump in his authoritarian rise. She still supports that. And for me personally, it isn't enough to say I want to end to a genocide somewhere else and to say that I support fascism at home, right? So I would like to see some moral consistency there. And we should encourage moral consistency there.
Well said. I mean, she's also been out there on the Epstein files, which is very weird. I'm just like, I've always been like, look, if only he had given her a position in government or given her some sort of titles, she probably would have been a foot soldier at this point. But you're right.
She's on the Epstein files, not because some of them really just like, well, Donald Trump isn't going to be impacted by it. And right, because they still believe that. Okay. And also because their constituent, their base is pushing the Epstein files hard.
Yes.
So they have to.
And I think I do think that we should not underplay just how anti-Semitic the base is. Marjorie Greene has shown you a very small sliver of what a very radicalized, very anti-Semitic and terrifying, I would say sort of like online, MAGA persona is. I mean, doing a little bit of research into, Nick Fuentes and the Groypers. I mean, these are people who were once fringe and actually have a lot of pull.
Moved right into the center of their.
I mean, yeah, it's you've got Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes and I don't know, or whatever the hell, the sort of like the little disgusting little collaborations that they're doing. But
and then every now and then they say something that makes sense. And we get
every now and then
because we have such a low bar for them, right? We have such a low bar so that when a Tucker Carlson, says about Ted Cruz, you're like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is amazing. Right, exactly. And this is also, I think, to the very first thing we talked about before you jumped on was kind of the way that everything is designed for the right. It's like the right does one little thing good and it's like, oh my God, the baby's first pee-pee. Like
confetti
Yes, and we're ready to give them all the flowers, but meanwhile, 7 million people take to the streets on, on Saturday, and it's like, that was a little something or whatever. No. This is that's 2% of the population. Like, this is a massive movement. People are fed the hell up, but please, give us more of how one right winger was good on one thing one time. I totally agree with you.
But you know what standard we should hold them to? Listen, Brother Malcolm X said it best. He was like, if you stick a knife in my back 7 inches and you pull it out 6 inches, that's not progress. He said, it's not progress if you pull it all the way out. It's progress when we've begun to heal the wound that you caused. So when I think about, some of these extreme right wingers who have rained chaos on our country right now, where we are is incredibly dangerous, right? I think that there are so many people who are still holding out hope, and are like American exceptionalism dreams, that what we think we're looking at is not what we're looking at, that we can't be looking at authoritarianism.
Right.
This isn't really fascist.
Or real white nationalism. I mean,
real
white nationalism
that never went away. Because again, that means that we have to address the fact that marginalized people told us it didn't go away. It means that we allowed it to grow. We are complicit in a way that our country is complicit, in genocides elsewhere, right? Those are all tough things to think about. Or the fact that the country that we know it maybe doesn't exist anymore. So there are so many people who are like dying to get back to where we were. And I get that, because you were more comfortable there, right? If you were not marginalized, if you were not poor, if you were not vulnerable, you were probably a little bit more comfortable. But right now it's still an opportunity for us to say, you know what? We are here for a reason.
Yeah.
Some people fought to get us here right now, and we need to be fighting just as hard as them to get us to what comes next. Building what comes next.
So I keep on stepping on your landing, and I apologize.
No.
Can I ask you one last question?
Yes.
Rep Lee, you have to go. Okay, one last question. So I was gonna bitch about Obama on Mark Maron's podcast. Mark Maron ended his podcast. His last interview was with Barack Obama, and Barack Obama said a couple of things that really stood out to me. The first thing I think is he articulated in a way that Obama was an incredible speaker on, which was the idea of America being this project, this idea in and of itself, that our best days are ahead of us, not behind us, that we, have to kind of make the road by walking. There are people who want to tear us down, but are, this ideal of we can all kind of live together, even though we come from different places, worship different gods, whatever. And he once again sort of mentioned that. And one thing that's been bothering me, no matter, I have massive critiques of Obama, and in that interview, that was revealed. But one of the things that bothers me is I feel like Democrats have lost the ability to articulate that what Obama articulated, I think, very well, which is we've got a terrible past. It's pretty bad. And we don't want any of that. And we also have to fight against these reactionary forces, because our best days as a heterogeneous democracy that has real wounds are ahead of us. Let's get to those days. Let's work for those days. And I feel like Democrats are well, do we get votes by throwing trans people under the bus? I think we do the anti-trans stuff. Do we get it by throwing, abortion rights on the bus? It's no, you just go back to the fucking 8-year president you had, who was actually pretty good at articulating something very basic about this country. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I think he had an authenticity in saying it. Any critique aside, I think objectively, a Black man, speaking out against, not against, but speaking out about the country's real history and how it impacted him, there was an authenticity there. Now, there should be more of us in Congress who can do that, considering, similar backgrounds. But so I think it's that. And I think that brings me to we need credible messengers, right? The Democratic Party is dying for credible messengers, right?
Yeah.
So many people who think that, the way that we can meet, young people is to go on Twitter and cuss, right? And, do that type of stuff, right? They got the same stale, tired consultants giving them the same stale, tired advice, and they're collecting their check every first of the month, right? And nothing is getting better. I think it's a little bit of that. And I think that it's accepting the Republican frame.
Yes.
So often we just we're always praising the Republicans, oh my God, they're incredible messengers. I'm I'm like, I guess. And then we accept it. So if Republicans say that it's anti-American to critique America's past, it's unpatriotic to talk about the racism, the sexism, the this, the that in American history, then Democrats have started to internalize that too.
Yep.
And they're like, well, we have to find a different way of doing it. So instead of saying the thing, saying outright, and then getting to your point, they just like mince words. And I think that people are tired of that. They want to see people who are like, you understand the system, you understand how the system impacts me, and you understand that I need you to go in there and want to change it. I think that brings to like the last thing is that I think that Democrats, again, I always say this, we cannot serve two masters. Of that, I usually mean, right, you can't be the party of working class people, poor people, vulnerable people, and also be the party of corporate interests, right? We can't do both. People are calling for us right now. They're calling out Democrats, and they're holding them to that standard, say you got to pick. And we want you to pick us, obviously. But also, right, Democrats have a third master, incumbency, right? This idea that we have sacrificed so much for incumbency. We have squelched, is that a word? Squelch. We have squelched so much talent that has come in, because
squandered, I think.
Squandered that one, right? We definitely squandered, right? All the young energy, when young energy shows up in races like Mamdani's or AOC's or mine or Corey's or whoever's it may be, when they see that sort of energy, especially if it's up against like a do nothing, the 98-year incumbent, instead of taking a moment and saying, hey, if we made our colleague be better, maybe they wouldn't be here in the first place. So then what they do is they destroy two things. They destroy that incumbent is still going to go by the wayside or go the way it's going to go. And you told this movement of young, excited people that their excitement is not welcome here. Yeah. And we have got to stop doing that.
I mean, interestingly, Obama was a moment where the next in line, so to speak, Hillary Clinton was passed over because that excitement was with Barack.
That's what it was.
And so, and it's like, actually, sometimes you do need the outsider, you do need the upstart, even though, again, politically, I have massive differences. And I think Obama represented a hand-holding of white people. It was like, we're going to hand-hold to the better days. But I think the real thing is, speaking to your Malcolm X quote, we actually cannot move forward without healing. And we see that this festering wound of racism, of Jim Crow, of white nationalism is just going to keep coming up and up and up unless we really have a plan to heal that wound. A third reconstruction, as William Barber III says, Reverend Barber. Like, it can't just be glazing over the past.
Yep.
But it has to be healing that. And that's obviously something, I mean, we're dealing with an entire political party that refuses to go to therapy. Representative, both of them. Representative Summerlee, you're the best. Thank you so much for making time. Plug things. What do you need? What do you need from us?
Oh my goodness. You can, of course, follow us, follow the work that we're doing at my socials, Summer for PA. I think that's like that on Twitter X, is that on Summerlee for PA on Insta, and also Rep Summerlee. You can find us on TikTok, Insta, Facebook, believe it or not. Our friends are there too. We got friends everywhere, but yeah, follow us on all those places.
I have friends everywhere, and I'm glad you have a moment. I mean, if the government shutdown gave me anything, it was an hour with you. And I hope we are back to work, and I hope you're back getting those unredacted files.
I want nothing more than to be back at work, doing the work of the people. Let's do this. And we're going to get those files.
Like, you're someone who actually doesn't, like, Ted Cruz will podcast no matter whether government's open or not. So.
And then go to like Mexico.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. He's booking the flights
We're
for
not again, new standards. Like, I pray for the day that those people are held to a real standard.
I mean, I pray for, some trials for Stephen Miller. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask in our lifetime.
Wonderful, lots of people, lots of room.
Yeah. Once the UN, once our international bodies get up and running, I'm excited for Gustavo Petro to haul Stephen Miller in front of the ICJ or something. I don't know how anything works. Representative Lee, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. Take care. And thank you all for being here. I was going to bitch a little bit about Barack Obama in that last interview. And I will, I don't want to get into it too much, but I think everyone should watch the interview with Mark Maron and Barack Obama, because it was revelatory in a lot of ways. And I think one of the other things that he said was that he wanted to like stay out of the fray after leaving office. And maybe I'll just play this little bit with him where he talks about wanting to stay out of the fray when he came to getting out of office after he lost the election to, he didn't lose. The Democratic Party lost the election to Donald Trump.
Politics or commentary more than I had wanted to be.
After the second term.
After in 2017, 2018. And I thought I was going to be able to remove myself more from being out there in public, and was going to be able to concentrate on what I really wanted to do, which was coach the next generation of leadership.
Sure.
Move from player to coach, essentially. Yeah. And I kept on being asked to comment on news of the day and look at this outrage and why aren't you out there more and that kind of thing. And look, that's flattering.
Yeah.
And it's an indication that you made a connection with people.
Sure.
But I tried to be a little bit disciplined about recognizing that I'd moved on to a new phase where I did not have formal power. Mm-hmm. I have some, hopefully, moral suasion, some credibility.
Yeah.
But I didn't have formal power. And so more than anything, for the long term, what I could do that would be most helpful would be to start promoting lifting up, shining a spotlight on those, that next generation of leadership and talent.
And I don't think you did either one of those things. So this is Barack Obama saying, look, the reason you saw me kite surfing or parasailing with Richard Branson in the aftermath of Donald Trump's victory is because I wanted to stay out of the fray. I wanted, to give some space. I wanted to be a mentor, not a commentator. I didn't have power anymore. And I just feel like this is really pussy. Like, this is just kind of a pussy excuse for a moment where we needed leaders, which was in 2016 after the election of Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton is the most toxic brand ever. She didn't even go to the Women's March, if you guys remember, because that would have ruined the whole thing. There are no leaders, and the Democratic Party basically rolls over and goes, oops, you did an election, and this is what people want. Not even recognizing that the reason something like the Women's March was so big was because we all knew the hell we're living in 2025, which again is only because Democrats once again squandered 2024 and did not make enough progress during Biden's 4 years. The only reason we're back here is because of the Democrats, is because of I just want to take a back seat. I don't want to comment on the day-to-day. I'm sorry. You walked us into fascism. We're here, and you should probably comment. You should probably be a leader. You should probably hold some rallies. You should probably act like the opposition party that you are, that this government calls you. But we don't have Democratic leaders like that. We have Democratic leaders like, well, we've got to obey the norms. I'm no longer in office, so I probably shouldn't comment. No, screw that. We elected an absolute sociopathic narcissist, anti-democratic white nationalist. So I'm sorry that you wanted retirement to be chill, but you should probably still be out in front. Also, if you wanted to mentor the next generation, where are they? Where's all the Democrat? Where are the people who are next in line? What is it? Jerry Connolly, R.I.P. Is it Dianne Feinstein, R.I.P.? Who's the next generation that you mentored? Kamala Harris? Cory Booker? Like, come on now. What are we actually talking about? So this conversation was both a reminder of how I think decent and good someone like Barack Obama was as a statesman, as a person. And he even talks about it. Look, we've lost decency. What happened to wanting to be like a generally good person? You've got a regime right now who relishes in being cruel and childish, like playground tactic type stuff. And that was wonderful. The reminder of America's days are the best ones are ahead of us, not behind us. Wonderful. I agree with that, right? But this sort of And he goes on to talk about reform and how reform is better than nothing. And it's like, yeah, buddy, but reforms can be rolled back. Your whole legacy can be rolled back. Look at what they're doing to the ACA now. It's not affordable. It is empowered, private health insurance agencies and companies. And this just really bothered me. It was like, well, I should probably step aside. No, buddy, no. We need leaders. We don't need you to have your podcasting company. We need to hold rallies. And he did, in the aftermath of Donald Trump being elected the first time, he had one rally maybe months after, or a speech where he sort of mentioned it. But, when people talk about a rudderless, leaderless, feckless Democratic Party, I do think, and we still haven't truly dissected the legacy of Barack Obama, for the good, for the bad, for the beyond his control, the racism, the obstructionism of the Republican Party at the time, but also, hey, maybe reforms and reformism isn't actually helpful. Maybe you do the whole enchilada. Maybe you go for a single payer, a public option. Just go for it. Use the leverage and the leadership that you have to get things done. So that bothers me. It's like, cool. If the other side is elevating like children into leadership, and our side is like, oh, the leaders we've had just want to operate by norms and sit stuff out. It's like, we're fucked. Like, Democrats are fucked with that mentality. It's like, I don't know if you guys are haunted by Donald Trump's recent quote where he said, the Democrats, I don't know, they're kind of dead, right? They're kind of, they're not even fighting. That shit haunts me. Like, that makes me so angry. That makes me so angry because I don't disagree, because he's not wrong. That's why it makes me angry. That was what I was bitching about. A little bit of Obama throwback. Thank you guys so much for being here, for your love, for your comments. Let's read some of them and get out of here. Donald James, member for 22 months. Let's go. Cheers. Now, non-alcoholic beer. Rachel Atwood, the No Kings rally I went to in Holyoke, Massachusetts, focused on a lot of what's involved in preparing for a general strike. P.S. So great to meet you last week. Yes, so great to meet you. So great to meet everyone who came out to the Bell House on whatever day that was, a couple weeks ago. It was really fun. Moondragon, Portland No Kings was outstanding. I have to imagine ice was frozen out. Roller Dragon, I was TYT mods quit. Why does the GOP think we get paid for this? Why do they think we hate the US? Absolutely the opposite, as point of fact. It's true. And thank you, Roller Dragon. And thank you to my mods. Todd Roy is a mod. Always doing the hard work out there. I have another mod, and I'm sorry I'm not shouting you out right now, but I'm just don't pay attention to me. Building a wall out of babies next. I know this is true. It's very true. Nadia Yvette Chambers, no way he lives in New York City if he can't name a bagel. It's an English muffin. Get out of here with the English muffin. Tito Lobido Bandito, thank you for your super chat. HR 8445 to amend Title 38 U.S. Code and the Service Member Civil Relief Act to provide for the eligibility of U.S. citizens who serve in the IDF for certain protections relating to such service. Vote no, vote no. Oh my God. I'm sorry I didn't read that on when Summer Lee was on. But this is the kind of, Israeli exceptionalism that we are subjected to. That's fucking insane. Oh, go beat on a Palestinian olive picker. Go protect settlers in the West Bank, and you too could get special privileges here in the United States. Seth Molt is an anti-trans Zionist opportunist, says Rachel Atwood. No doubt. No doubt. But the fact that he even had to say that he's giving money back, I was like, all right. Political X, what's up? Would you agree? It's wild to think that got down Donald Trump was not the opposition. It was Donald Trump. I don't think I follow that, Political X, but thank you so much. And thank you, Raga98. Great show in Brooklyn last week, Franny. Loved your joke about the pearl-clutching liberals asking for civility, and your Greta impersonation is great too. Oh, thank you. Come see me in Pasadena if you're out here. And with that, hey, shout out to all the new patrons. $5 means the world, but $10 gets you a fart song shout out. Thank you, Elsie. Thank you on Substack, Emily McLean and Jessica Greenwood for becoming paid members. Appreciate you. Thank you, Looney Tunes, for resubscribing over on Twitch. Thank you, Mojo Quid. My goodness, I cannot stand Harris Faulkner. Yeah, neither can I. 3 months strong. Thank you so much. False Prophet 93. Thank you. Thank you, Brad League, for that very generous super sticker. Always appreciate super chats and super stickers from all the good people. Any new members on YouTube? No, but you should be. And thank you to you and me and my cat, maybe. Sure, why not? Thank you to Jason Society, who just subscribed with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you to Brent Godin, to Paige Omek, to Andy Vasoyan. My brain just farted, as it always does. We will be back next Tuesday with a brand new spanking lineup. Again, countdown to the New York election. I'm very, very, very excited. Until then, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it. Be about it. Bye-bye.